Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast series. I am your host, Ann Austin, CEO and founder of Austin Tech LLC, and it is my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. Today, we have a very special segment and a very special guest speaker who is here to share his incredible story about his life, how he was able to take the worst situation and turn it around into a phenomenal entrepreneurship. Most of his life, which he will talk about in this segment, has really taken a turn for the worse. However, during this sensitive and profound part of his life, he was able to overcome these obstacles, and with his faith and with his trust and belief in himself, he was able to kind of turn it around and become very successful. So with that, I would like to fully introduce to everyone Reginald Foreman. Reginald was born in Chicago, Illinois, and for most of his childhood, he lived in Alabama and Florida, where he lived with several relatives throughout his teenage life. And at the age of 19, he was incarcerated for armed bank robbery, which he'll talk about. And during that time where he kind of had to deal with that situation, which I kind of don't want to give it away because I really would like to have Reginald talk about this particular section. He was able to find and be accepted with Jesus Christ as his personal Lord and Savior, which we all love Jesus, and I love Jesus. I'm not afraid to say it. But it actually propelled him to, turn his life around once he was released and to come up with his own business called Godly Image 3 LLC, which is a business that showcases inspirational and motivational writings. And he also does fashion, greeting cards, playwrights, and he does some type of movies, I guess, and he's going to talk about that. Reginald has been featured on several radio stations throughout the United States, and his apparel has been sought out from many fashion magazines and been displayed in many retail stores. So with that, I would love for everyone to meet Reginald Foreman to the show. Reginald, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you again for having me.
Well, thank you so much, Reginald. I am really inspired by you, and I'm hoping that through this podcast that we can inspire many other people, not just as an entrepreneur, but just as someone who is trying to turn their life around no matter what the problem is. And so can you just tell us what happened when you were 19 and just give us an idea of what you went through?
Well, I can start off first of all. We said, like you said, I was born and raised in Chicago and shipped from house to house like an orphan. We have to build up to the crime that I got up in. It starts off with me, born in Chicago. I was going through gangs. My mother was unstable. She ended up on drugs and later in her life ended up in prostitution. So I was shipped from house to house like an orphan. My mother, being that my mother was unstable, I would see my father every summer. I didn't really grow up with him. He was more corporate America. He was more on the what we call had his life together. So it seemed. And I would, like I said, I was shipped from house to house, and my mother was abusive. She used to take a lot of her anger out on me, which they say that the saying is really true: hurt people hurt other people. I don't know what it was that my father was going through, but they had a lot of rifts, and I caught the flack of it. And when I moved I found one of the days that I was living with my mother, she was hitting me in the top of my head, and my uncle came and snatched off and said, "You can't be hitting that boy," like punching him in his head like that. So there were many times that my mother got very physically abusive. I had a little brother that I lived with named Brandon. He was light skinned, I was dark skinned. We had different fathers, and it seemed like that he would get away with murder. If he even said that I put my hands on him, she was coming at me. He caught all the love that I did not get. And the last straw was we moved to stay in a trailer park in Alabama for about a year or so when I moved from Chicago, Illinois, projects and gangs. And my mother, I think would have had my brother. I said something to him, and I got fed up with my mother taking his side, and I said something back. The next thing you know, I'm running out the door, and she's throwing all kind of tools and wrenches and stuff at me. And I'm running
Oh my
fast
gosh.
as I can.
Wow.
And I ran to a neighbor's house to get on the phone to call my father. I wanted him to come save me. And my father told me to go back and respect my mother, honor her. You know, he just said something I didn't want to hear at that moment. I didn't know that my mother and my father had made an agreement that at high school, ninth grade, or beginning of high school, that I was supposed to move with him. I never knew this. So in the midst of her feeling like she was going to kill me, I ended up going back, and I finally moved with my father. So now I'm living in Miami, Florida, palm trees, 4 cars, 3 bedrooms with a pool. I mean, I always tell people my life is likened to the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, except for, of course, the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. They had a little more money, but my father and my stepmother was a Dolphins cheerleader and a model before she became the top executive. So they made well over $100,000 in income back in the '90s. So they were doing pretty, fairly well. And I was moved to this whole new area from the project of Chicago. It's to the joke I always said is when I was talking to my stepmother on the phone when I first was talking to her, she sounded so proper. I thought she was white, but she's African American. But growing up in the project of Chicago, I'm used to everybody having a slang. She was so proper I didn't even know. And my father had to teach me that, uh, being proper and carrying yourself with character is not a race. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. And I'm just so used to, from what I saw, not saying that there's no proper people in Alabama or Chicago, but I'm used to seeing a lot of people in the project. So anyway, when I moved there, it got strict. My father was trying to make me into this law-abiding citizen. We had GQ magazine on the table. He used to try to make me watch Tony Brown Journal. He was going to try to reprogram everything that I learned in the Project Chicago, which was a little bit late because by the time, if you ever remember, anybody remember at the age of 14 or 15, you think you're grown. You're smelling yourself at that age. So I had been bullied. I had got tired of being bullied. I just wanted to, I had a lot of anger in me from being raised by a violent mother, and she had anger, so I had those issues. I had a chip on my shoulder, so it was a lot going on in me once I moved to this better life. And my father had a Christmas fund, and they had a college fund ready for me. We had a lot of things going. So one time we went to a restaurant, and it was called Dominique's on the Beach, $100 plates. And I'm like, what? And the food was so small, just like they show in the movies. So as I'm sitting at the table, the waiter comes out with a bowl of the water it looked like. And I was getting ready to try to drink out of it because I'm like, oh, okay, it's in the bowl. My father said, hey, but you don't drink out of that. That's what you dip your fingers in. And I said, what? They brought the sink to the table?
Wow.
And I just remember my father and them laughing at me
Wow.
because it was a 5-star restaurant. I never experienced anything like that. So I'm just giving you
Mm-hmm.
an insight of what I came from the gut of Chicago to and middle income.
Right.
But the thing was, my mind had not changed. My mind was
Right.
disrupted. I'm living in this better life, and we got more money. I got my own room, but my mind is still in the gutter, and I'm trying to survive. So, in the midst of me going to high school, I got in a fight. I got bullied one day, and it just cut off, and I just started getting wild. I said, I'm not going through it again. And behind the scenes, I did not know that my stepmother and my father was having problems because they never really argued in front of me. My father had demons in his closet that he was not showing. My father wasn't a religious man. He was self-righteous. The people he thought that needed to go to church and needed God were people who were, really doing crime or out there on the streets. And he was self-righteous. He was independent. He had everything under control. Every time you see my father, he had it under control. But found out that they were having problems. So some nights, Thursday nights, later on as I got older, my stepmother would be sitting on the couch, and my father would be late coming home. So one day, sat on the couch with her, and she laid her head on my shoulder and started crying. They were having so much problems. My father had friends who were Cubans, and they were selling big-time drugs. My father was corporate American man. You would never know that these guys were selling drugs. My father wasn't at the moment, but his friends were. That's why you heard the saying, if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Who are the people you're around? In the midst of that, one day I was in my father's truck, and I was looking for money. Yes, I was. My father kept money all in the truck. And in the ashtray, I saw a dollar bill that was rolled up real thin and fine.
Oh no, please don't
Yes.
say. Please don't
I was
say.
so
It really
I was
was.
it was rolled up real thin, and I was so curious
Oh
because I
no.
really knew about drugs then. And now this
Mhm.
is a house we didn't have no ashtrays sitting out. They only drank when they toasted. It was a real nice TV type of house. Went to check the dollar bill out that was rolled up real tight. And yes, it was laced with white stuff. And I tried to put it behind my head because there was no way that my father was messing with drugs, because it was Mr. Corporate America. They used to call him Mr. Dictionary in school. He's the one that made it, all this kind of stuff. He grew up in the streets like I did in Chicago. He went to the Army, changed his life. So basically what happened is I started getting more and more in trouble in school, get suspended. They ended up in a divorce. My stepmother and my father got a divorce. And then at the same time, Florida Power and Light had a big citywide layoff. That's where they were, corporate America. They were laying people off left and right. And my father had got offered, because in 13 years, 8-year stretch, he didn't miss not one day. So he had a good ranking. But they still offered him either a buyout, the payout, or a lower pay compensation. He took the payout. So he's going through divorce. Job is laying him off. Now, let me tell you this. A couple of weeks later, my father went from suits and suspenders and clean-cut afro to a guy wearing jogging suits and a ponytail, slicked his hair back. Slick Willie was his street name. He went back to that. He's riding around in limos with 2 women on the side of him like he's a pimp. I
Oh,
can't make this up.
wow. Oh,
This is part
wow.
of my life story. Selling drugs. My father went from this clean-cut corporate American man to a pimp selling drugs. Stepmother disappeared, and I ended up, like I said, getting more and more in trouble, got expelled out of a couple of schools. And my father disappeared. I'm going to speed up. My father just disappeared out of nowhere. So I started getting, he left me the house. Now, at the age of 17, I did have a chance to move. My aunt and family in St. Louis told me I could come move with them. But this is my father's side, but when I say they Pentecostal church, skirt down to the ankles, no makeup, too holy, I said that I'm not going to move to St. Louis. At 19, I wasn't thinking about being in no church. I'm not going to, I wasn't 19 at the age, I was 17. I'm not thinking about this. They're going to be too strict. I'm going to be able to play my rap music. But this is the key. I had a way out before I got into bigger trouble, and I didn't take it. So my father disappeared. I'm getting these things in the mail from the mortgage, so they're going to take the house. I'm trying to hustle up money with friends and stuff, and I found out they wouldn't even talk to me because my name is not on the mortgage paper. So met up with some friends, knew I had to get some hustling on. And first, what happened? I had a friend that stayed with me for 3 months. His cousin sold drugs, and I never wanted to go to prison because my father tried to put the fear of God in me about going to prison. Told me about them raping me, doing all kind of stuff, and if I ever go to jail, he's never coming to get me. So I always thought, man, I ain't doing nothing where I can get caught. So for me, standing on the corner selling drugs is too easy because they got to jump out, they got to sting, undercover police will catch you. I said, I'm not going to prison. But I had a friend who was in high school. This guy was coming to high school with leather pants on, driving Acuras and Hondas, making big money in the 11th grade. And I stayed clear of him because I was with my father. But finally, I needed help, and I told him. He told me what he was doing. He said, look, I got a cousin. He's going to stay at your house because I had the house that my father and my stepmother left. They disappeared. I got the house now. So every week, this guy would come to my house. He was laying there. He would dump $5,000 to a certain amount of money on the bed out of a bag. I was watching him
Wow.
do this. I was watching him do
Wow.
this.
And this
Yeah.
just precipitated more interest in what was going on at the time.
Yes, it definitely was, because to see all that money at one time and to know that what he was doing was fly on a plane, strapping the drugs
Mhm.
on him. This is before
Mhm.
9/11 when you can get across there. So
Gotcha.
my mind built up that I can get away from this. I won't be on the corner and I'll make a lot of money. But as soon as it was my turn to go do it, the head guy got arrested. It did. I was not allowed to go do it. Three months into watching this, and this guy get arrested who was fronting them the dope and sending them across town. So I ended up getting with another friend in high school. He told me that his older brother did a lot of robberies. I mean, I got into robberies. I was doing. It's a lot to go into. Ended up doing some home invasion. I got wild for the last 2 years from 17 till when I got locked up. But finally, I was looking at this bank. I knew a girl that I went to high school with. She worked at a bank. I talked to the guy who his friend, his cousin hooked me up with, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we planned out the bank. It was a drive-through teller. Now I'm going to go through a little bit of this just to show you how things happen when you're not heeding the warnings that come to you. The first day we tried to rob the bank, it's a drive-through teller. Like I said, the bank is separate on top of the hill. The drive-through teller opens at 8. The bank itself is a little building. It's a drive-through teller. Then you got the big bank that's separate. It opens at 9 o'clock. As we're sitting in the car, me and this guy, We got our mask on and everything. And what happens is two people go to work. You have to time it when you jump out because the door is like one of those doors that close real slow and then it'll close heavy. It'll slam fast if you don't catch the door. We're sitting there, and as I'm getting ready, because I told him, look, I got to get this money. I don't got time for no mistakes. We did a robbery before where this guy messed it up. And he was wrestling with the lady, and then I was like, listen, I got to get this money. I'm jumping out. Anyway, so as I get ready to jump out the car to run into the bank door, the door of the car was locked. It's like a criminal blooper. I couldn't get out the door.
Oh my gosh.
So now these people done went to work. The doors are done shut. I couldn't get out. We're looking at each other like, come on, man. Did you lock the door? Did you unlock the door? Second day. The second day we're playing. We're going to do it again. I jump out the car. As I run to the door to grab the doorknob, my hand with the glove slipped off the doorknob.
Oh my goodness.
So picture in your mind, I'm sitting out on broad daylight, crouched down behind a door. It is done shut. Nobody saw me that I know of because early in the morning, I ran back and got in the car. So now it was like, are you serious? Third time, there's a saying that I must say that they say the devil can paint a pretty picture when you're asking God for help, because I tell you the next day it rained, it stormed. And why that is good is because doing a crime, it's hard for you to see the license plate. I mean, we had switched cars, we got tints on the car, everything to do wrong went right. So we pulled this time when we got in the car, we were parked a couple of feet away from the bank door. This time we pulled right up on the side of it because we noticed that in the drive-through teller, there's a red light meaning you stop, and the green light meaning you can proceed to the window. People would be sitting right there, and once they turned the green light on, they would just ease up a couple of inches. So we were sitting right there at the time, and as soon as they came to work to go in the door, I jumped right out the back door and pushed them in. Shot the gun in the ceiling to show them that I wasn't playing, which hurt me later, and ended up getting away with $22,000 because it was supposed to be more than that. But the guy was telling me that, the first shift has their own keys, second shift has their own keys, and this is all we got. And
wow,
ended up robbing the bank and getting away with $22,000. Didn't get away, but ended up going home. Drove to my house, and we're at home. And the guy, of course, was celebrating because we needed the money. And this is where I messed up. The guy told me to burn everything. Because I took the woman's purse. See, like I said, in my mind, I'm going to get something. Whether I flip the money and do this, I'm not coming out of here empty-handed. So I took their personal stuff. The guy gave me his wallet. I took her purse and the bank money. Got to my house. He said, burn the clothes, burn the work purse, burn everything but the money. I didn't listen to him. The lady, it was back when the new flip phone came out. I got her phone and kept her phone. So
you kept her phone.
Kept her. I just got, we split $22,000. I had $11,000, and I kept this lady.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
Thinking, just being stupid. Went to pick up one of my younger friends who was like, he was under me, 16. He was doing wrong too, but I was like the big brother. I was 19, and he gave me a hug. It wasn't like a real celebration. It was just crazy. Everybody knew that I was struggling, and everybody was like, "You a good dude." And it was like, "Man, you finally got the money." So I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm finna hit it out of town and everything." So as I'm driving, now check this out. I'm still driving the stolen car though. It's young and dumb. I'm still driving around in the stolen car. No. We had another stolen car. I'm driving around in it, and he sees the phone antenna sticking out my pocket. He's like, "Yo, you got a phone already?" I'm like, "Nah, I got this from the robbery." He said, "Yeah, from somebody that worked there. This guy is 16 years old." Looks over him and says, "You know that they can trace that phone from the bank robbery." Instead of me listening, my chest popped. I was like, "Man, who did this? Who just made this money? I got this." That was my second warning. That's why I always say, no matter how much you're doing, God always tries to warn you. Warning comes before destruction. Dropped him off, and I was headed up to the north part of Miami because I'm in Miami, Florida. I was headed to the north side to get one of my homeboys because he was going to go out of town with me. Always trying to bless somebody else to take him with me. This was the guy that was when my father was selling drugs and pimping prostitutes. He was over there being his security. And I was going to get him to go out of town with me. So I cut the phone on because I was calling my ex-girlfriend to boast that I didn't need her and I made the money and all that.
Wow.
I called her to boast. I turned the phone on. Didn't know I was getting traced. Soon as they waiting on it. Then I hung it up. And as I was going, I called my godbrother. I'm calling my godbrother, my friend, like I'm on my way. And as I'm pulling up to the gas station to go in the gas station, a police car pulls out slow, looks at me real crazy, pulls off to the left like he's going to turn. I peep the police officer. I tell my guy, look, man, hey, man, 5-0 just pulled up and looking at me crazy. So I said, I'm going to holler at you later. I'm going to call you back. I get in the car to pull out of the gas station. Out of nowhere, like 20 police cars just came out of nowhere. They were just flying, cutting me off. First thing they said, where's the phone? Where's the cell phone? Where's the phone? They traced me because I cut the cell phone off.
Wow, Reginald, wow. I mean, this is an unbelievable story. Um, I don't know what to say. I mean, how many warnings, like you said, can you get, with doing something like this, and like you said, through your mind, you got this, So what was of course you went to prison, but once you got there and everything, what was your turning point? What was it that snapped in your head and said, I really messed up?
Well, for one thing, it got worse for me. I ended up getting illegally sentenced. They charged the state. I got charged in state prison and federal prison. I was only supposed to get charged in federal prison because it was a federal bank. But what they did is when I robbed the people that was at work, the state transcripts lied and said I robbed them separate from the bank. So what they're saying is I robbed two people on the sidewalk in broad daylight, took their stuff, and then ran inside a bank. And I'm like, a crackhead wouldn't do that. So that's called a separate episode, which really, when I robbed them while they were at work, it should have just been 9.5 years for one episode. So what happened was I got 9 years in state, 9.5 years in federal. But what the state judge said we're going to do for you is just we're going to run our time concurrent, means while you're at federal prison, because wherever you get sentenced first and you do the most time, get the most time is where you go. I was supposed to went to Club Fed. It's not a club, but that's what they call it, because all of the white collar people go to to the federal prison, bank scams and all that. You don't usually have too many wild people. State prison is the worst place to go. So I'm like, all right, we're going to run it concurrent. So while I'm doing my federal sentence, my state sentence will be running at the same time. While I'm doing 9.5, state will be going away. But as I come back from getting sentenced in state prison, everybody who came from state to go to Fed, they stopped me. They let all the other guys get on the van. They said, Mr. Foreman, they pull out the paperwork. Oh, okay, you got to do your state first, then your Fed. So I'm sitting there, 21 years old. Mind you, I done got in the Bible. I went to trial. I'm sorry, I can't skip this part. I went to trial to try to fight the case. I had a public defender, which people don't usually trust in prison, but he looked in my eyes and looked at me and said, man, you just a kid there, young kid that effed up. What I'm going to do for you is I'm going to fight this case for you. I went to trial and had a hung jury because what happened in there is my lawyer was trying to make it look like my father did it because of what was going on in his life. And we brought neighbors in that said that he was having a bad time. He lost his job. I was, without even knowing it, was wearing his clothes when I robbed the bank. I just grabbed some clothes. So it was all looking like maybe my father did, and I was trying to protect him because I wrote a letter to the judge and confessed. Hear what I say? I wrote a letter to the judge, pleading for mercy, but still went to trial. So we had a hung jury. Now, in the midst of the hung jury, the judge stopped the jury and said, listen, I want to tell you something. Last week I went to the movies. This is the judge talking now. Last week I went to the movies, and in the movies they had all kind of twists and turns and what ifs and all that. But you got to look directly at the evidence. Because a lady picked me out of a lineup, which she did not see my eye. All she saw was my eyes, they said. I had a bandana over my nose and a hat over my head. All she could do was see my eyes, but she picked me out. I'm like, okay, right. And he said, you got to look directly at the evidence. So what I want you to do is go back there and deliberate. Because what the prosecutor did, because usually when you get a hung jury, they set another trial date. But he wanted to force it right then and there. They put an appeal up and said, on such and such act, you can go back to delivery right now. My lawyer didn't say nothing. He's listening to the judge coerce the jury. He's basically forcing them to say, look directly at the evidence. Of course, after that, after hours of couldn't find me guilty, in 10 minutes I was found guilty. I had to say that part because it's something like one of the biggest cases on the show in there, how the judge coerced the jury. So anyway, I lost trial, 9.5 in federal. I got 9 in state. I'm coming off the van, and the police stops me and says, you got to go do your state first, then your fed. So basically this guy's telling me I got 18 and a half years. And I'm like, are you serious? I just got double sentence out of nowhere. So now they're saying I got to do the full 9 years in state. Then after I finish, I got to go do 9.5 years when it's supposed to be running concurrent. And I never was supposed to get sentenced in state. So now everything is coming on me crazy. Wow. I done got in the Bible trying to believe. And I remember going to my cell. I was suicidal. First of all, my mother was suicidal. She tried to commit suicide a couple of times in front of me and my brother. So that's something that's called generational curses that's imprinted or passed down in your mind. I'm sitting with 18 and a half years. I wasn't getting no visits. I didn't know where my mother was, my father was. Nobody was coming to see me. I'm on my own. Sitting in the cell thinking about killing myself. And I remember opening the Bible, and I remember just lashing out, going crazy. Like, God, where the F were you when these dudes were chasing me home from school with the gang members? Where were you when my mother was beating me? Where were you when I was hungry? I just was going angry at God, going wild. I remember crying and letting it out. And like something came over me and I asked God to really help me. See, there's a thing about people saying they want help, but when your back is really against the wall and you have nowhere else out, you're really seeking for help. And that's all I remember God saying to me, I have a purpose for you. And that's when my turnaround came. I got deep in the Bible and I started reading the Bible, getting into Bible studies, getting stronger. And lo and behold, as I started becoming, like they used to call me the deacon of the prison of the church. I'm knocking on doors, going to Bible study. 4 years passed by. I finally went to appeal. I got a prison lawyer, which is a guy that's locked up that knew the court cases, helped me file an appeal. I got back in the courts 4 years later. Now I'm in there in the county jail now. I'm saved. I'm happy. In the county. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to tell you this part because this is going to lead to my business. I opened up the Bible while I was laying on my bunk at 19 years old. It says Genesis 1:26, 1:27 that God created man and woman in his image. For some reason, when I read that, it jumped out to me that I'm created in God's image. I was bullied when I was younger, said I was too dark-skinned, too much acne. I was called this, never was going to make it, all kind of stuff. And when I read that scripture that we were creating God's image, it did something to me. So that's where godly image came from, that we were creating God's image. I got a prison tattoo where I had a guy tattoo that on my chest, godly image. So now go back. I'm in the court. I'm back in the county jail for my appeal to the state. Now, while I'm in the county jail, 4 months later, they sent me to go to court. I got a letter from the federal prison.
So wait a minute. So just make sure everybody who's listening, because this is a lot of information. So you're saying that after you went through all of that, you were able to get a lawyer to help you get out, right?
No, not a lawyer. It's called
a public defender.
No, jailhouse lawyer.
Jailhouse lawyer. Gotcha. Okay.
Somebody that's locked up with me, but all I did was study the law.
Yeah, okay, I understand. I just want to make sure I had a clear understanding of that. And then you were able to kind of, get out and, just try to rebuild, in other words.
Well, okay, so now we're in the county jail getting ready to go to court and find out what happened.
Gotcha.
And, the big part comes out. I got a letter from the federal prison while I was in state, waiting to go to state jail. It said, Mr. Foreman, your case is closed, is mute. You can't file no more appeals. So what the federal judge said is that you have 2 years to file an appeal. You've exasperated your remedies. So now I'm sitting there stuck with a 9.5-year prison sentence. I can't file no more appeals in the federal prison. But I'm getting ready to go to state. So now I'm jumping up crazy, frantic, like, what? I can't file an appeal. So they're saying you just got to do 9.5 years. You have no way else out. I ran to the jail, the brick wall where the jail cell was, and I was calling. There was a guy I used to go to Bible study. He was like my mentor. Now, this is key. As I yelled out at him and said, yo, the feds just closed my case. They won't let me file no more. This guy started laughing and praising God. So I'm trying to look through the brick wall like, why are you laughing and praising God? He said, he got real quiet. He said, now you're going to see the power of God. Now you're going to see his hands move because you have nowhere else out. And now I'm trying to calm down. I'm frantic like, oh, all right. So I'm reading the Bible. The Bible's real to me now. There's no more playing again. I get in the course and they say, Mr. Foreman, we did agree to run our case concurrent back in 90-something, but the federal prison somehow didn't agree. But what we're going to do for you is just overturn your 9 years. We'll overturn the 9 years and just charge you for the gun. So I had 4 years. They're just charging me 3 years now. So if my case was cut from 9 to 3, I'm a year over. I could have went straight out the court. They said, well, Mr. Foreman, you can't go home because the federal prison has a hold on you. They're coming to pick you up to serve your time there. I'm like, all right, cool. So I go back in there. I'm like, all right, we just got to get to federal now. Now, Monday is a state prison run where they take you back to prison. Federal is on Tuesday. They call my name to pack up on a Monday. So I'm like, why am I going to state prison? I just beat them. This is the same. While you're trying to figure it out, God is already working it out. So they call me. They take me to this camp. It ain't even like a prison. It was wide open. It was easy. I wrote my lawyer. I didn't get a response. I wrote the judge. I even wrote the prosecutor that was against me. Why am I still in state prison? I never pushed past 3. That's just my number. Okay, 4 months go by. 4 years, and now 4 months go by. I'm sitting in this little classroom where they help you find out how to do a bank account. The lady comes and calls me to receiving. R&D is where they receive you in. Delivery is where they put you. It's called R&D. Say, Mr. Foreman, we need you down at R&D. Now, I know I got to leave state prison, but I also know in my other mind, okay, I got to leave, but the federals come to get me. As I'm walking to the front door to go down, there was a young Haitian dude I used to mentor. This is what I learned. None of the old heads would deal with him because he was too wild. And I would mentor him, and he yells out, hey, boy, today is your day. Things happen when it rains. It was pouring down rain outside. I don't know what that was. I say, is that voodoo or something? I don't know what that means. So as I go with the lady, he say, hey, I'm telling you, today your day. I go down with the lady. She's typing on the computer. I say, Mr. Foreman, you have an immediate release. Because in their mind, 4 months ago, you got to go home. But I just heard from a judge there's a hold on me. So I'm like, okay, is there a hold on me in the computer? She says, no. I said, there's no detainer on me in that computer? She said, no. I said, oh, I'm going to shut up and ride this out. So I get up, change clothes. They give me the $100 they give you when you get out of prison. I got in the front seat of the police car with the woman now. I'm right in the front seat, not the back seat. She takes me to the bus station. She said, Mr. Foreman, have a nice life and want to see you again. I got on the Greyhound bus and jumped up yelling, oh, my God, I'm free, I'm free. I just beat the feds. And I ended up back in Miami, Florida.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And now you're back there. Okay, so then what do you do? I mean, what do you do once you're, out of prison? I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, I have 4 sons, and I can't even imagine any of them, robbing a bank or doing any of those things to go to prison. And more so, what do you do once you're out of prison? How does your mind kind of fathom that, okay, I have to find somewhere to live. I have to buy food to eat. I have to, make a means. How did you kind of get over that? And, did you have anybody to reach to or, talk to after that?
Well, for me, when I got out, I looked around and it seemed like the people that I hung around, because remember, I moved. Only one that lived in Miami was my stepmother, my father. All my family is in Alabama, Chicago, and St. Louis. So now I'm like, yo, there's nobody here. But I ended up remembering that my aunt wanted me to move to St. Louis because I looked around and my friends were doing the same thing or they were no better. And I said, I'm not going back to prison. So I ended up calling my aunt in St. Louis, I was telling you, they're the deep holiness church people. I'm in the Bible now. I'm like, listen, I knew, and that's what I tell people, I had to get accountability and people to support me. And I'm like, look, I got to go. So matter of fact, I ended up finding my stepmother because she did write me later on in prison. She bought me a ticket and I moved to St. Louis. So now I'm in St. Louis. Yo, I'm dating the pastor's daughter. I'm working at Labor Ready. It's a labor job that pays you $6-7 an hour. I'm doing all kind of just odd jobs. Now I'm telling you, my story is crazy. My pastor's daughter, who I was dating, had dreams that I was going back to prison. So I'm thinking, are you crazy? I ain't even thinking about prison. I'm working these hard labor jobs, digging ditches, walking dogs, cleaning toilets. She had 4 dreams I went back to prison. So I'm like, okay, I ain't paying no attention again. Maybe this means something because me and her were having so many disagreements. I didn't want to be with her. That was another long story. That's a whole book itself about people putting you together. And 3 years later, 30 months, 4 days after Valentine's Day, 2004, I'm laying on my bed, 6 a.m. in the morning, 1 foot on, 1 foot off, slinking off the bed. I'll never forget. I heard a heavy knock. If you ever heard a U.S. Marshals knock at the door, it'll wake you up out of coma.
Wow.
Go downstairs, there were U.S. Marshals everywhere. Come in there and say, Mr. Foreman, we have a warrant for your arrest 3 years later. Put me in the car, turn around and look at me and say, Mr. Foreman, you were let out of prison erroneously by mistake.
How can they? I mean, I can't even imagine. I'm like, okay, it's your mistake. Now all of a sudden you want me to go back.
Yes,
I mean, I will
so
be, I will be devastated. I will be devastated.
so you got to think about what's going on in my mind. First of all, I'm mad at God again. I'm like, I keep trying this, God, keep trying to believe, and it keeps getting. First, I was not supposed to get sentenced twice. Then they sent me to state prison, gave me 8.5 years. Then I get free. Now I'm up here dating the pastor's daughter in church, changing my life, and I'm going back to prison. I'd rather what we call in the streets have judge and jury on the streets, which is take me on to glory and then go back to prison. So all I can tell you is it took a couple of months. Of course, I was yay close to suicide again. Didn't know what I was going to do, and this is why I always tell people: accept the help that comes to you. I had a lot of older guys coming to me that was deep in that Bible. That's why I tell people I don't force God on nobody. But when I say I lived that and I seen God do great things and I seen Him um, open up some doors. These guys came to me. I'm talking about these guys had life sentences, 30 years, 40 years. Like, man, we see something on you. You're going to make it. You're going to be all right. And I started listening to them. I started letting them soak it in, telling me how to be strong. And I got my strength back. I started believing again out of nowhere. But this time I started occupying myself. I got so many certificates. I started going to class because in federal prison you can go get certificates. You can go to class. I got my GED. I was voted. I was voted one of the prisoners to successful to succeed. Prisoner of the month is what they gave me an award. Most likely to succeed. I started occupying myself, bettering myself. Next thing I know, because what happened when I went back to prison, they didn't even want to give me the time I did in state prison. They wanted me to do the whole 9.5 years. They said, well, we didn't agree to run out time concurrent, so that time doesn't matter. So I had to file another appeal with another jailhouse lawyer that helped me, and I ended up winning the appeal. And I got the 4.5 I did and did 4 more years. So
Wow.
altogether, I did 4.5 years, 3 years on the street, and 4. I did 8.5 years altogether.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit. Okay. So I'm still flabbergasted about your whole entire story.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
I'm serious. The reason why I say that because most people, I wouldn't say most people, but there are some people who are just not able to bounce back. And first of all, I do applaud the fact that you did go back and serve your time for what you did, and you recognize for what you did. And then at the same time, when you did get out, you did try to turn your life around, only to just find out, oh, I got to go back, and you understood the reasons why you had to go back. A lot of people don't, when they're frantic, they're panicking, and they go in there. Some people, they just don't make it, but somehow or another you were able to pull through, and that's miraculous. And so for people who are listening to this podcast, they probably have their mouth open like I have mine open right now, like, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine, But fast forward a little bit, you're out now. Okay, you're out, you're back on track again, and you have your faith. What really inspired you to do the fashion and all the other creative stuff to turn this into an entrepreneur, opportunity for you?
Well, what happened was the second time that I went in, I had talked to a guy about school, and he was telling me, this guy was not. When you look at this guy, you're like, man, this guy couldn't have been going to school. He was still a drug selling dude, gold teeth, everything. Not to pick, stereotype people. He just didn't look like he was in college. He was like, man, you go to college you don't make over 100,000, they'll pay for your schooling. So, got in my head that I can go to school at 30 years old. I went to college. I see. This is what happened. At first, I picked something that I thought would make a lot of money, like a lot of people in life. I wasn't looking for my purpose. Just like the first time when I was out. When I first got out, I was just existing. Something switched this time. I was looking for purpose this time. Because when I went into federal prison, now I feel the goosebumps coming on me now as I talk. I started applying myself to who is Reginald Foreman. What purpose does God have for me? So when I got out this time, I was looking for that. The other time, I was just looking how to exist. And I went to school. But what happened was when you plan a plan and you get happy, milestones, bricks coming away again. So while I'm in college, I took culinary arts, and I realized I didn't like cooking. I mean, I only liked cooking. I didn't love it. I want to do something I love. So I switched over because at the age of 14, my stepmother looked at me because I would always see, coming up, my mother would put me on punishment, and I would go in there and draw. I was an artist, or I would write. And my stepmother told me also when she looked at me, she said, you should do something with T-shirts or greeting cards. She didn't know she prophesied and spoke this in my life at 14 about my gift. So now I'm thinking about all that, and I'm like, I'll take graphic design. Switch from culinary arts to graphic design, working in there. And what happened? I'm standing at my aunt's place, and she's getting on my nerves. I'm fussing with her, and I'm like, I want to hurry up like a young person and get my own place. I end up leaving school. I only did 2 semesters. So I'm working full-time at these jobs, trying to make money, get my own place, get my own car. I end up working at a print shop that makes T-shirts. So I'm at this print shop, and you won't believe this. I'm watching BET Hip Hop Awards. T-Pain out of Florida comes on there and says, I want to thank all my haters for this award because it wouldn't be possible without you. Popped in my head a light bulb. God bless my haters. I'm going to make a T-shirt called God Bless My Haters because they know not what they do. They push you to succeed. Succeed is in my mind. And I made another shirt. God made me what can break me. I just stepped to the lady who I was working with and said, yo, I got some ideas for some T-shirts. And she was like, all right, you working, go ahead. I made the first was God made me what can break me because of what I've been through. If God made me, nothing can break me. I put it on a T-shirt. I went to barber shops, beauty salons. I had an old Fred Summer pickup truck somebody gave me, and I was selling them shirts out left and right. Because you found out that people felt what you felt. People have been through pain. People have survived some things. Maybe not the same that I survived. One lady came to me and said, yo, I really need that shirt. I just beat cancer. God made me what can break me. One lady had got through a divorce, a bad divorce, was like, I need that shirt. So the God Bless My Haters, people would come up to me and be like, yo, I need this job because this shirt, because this girl on this job be hating on me. I said, you do know what it says, though. God bless my haters. But anyway, I said, as long as you want to buy it. So I'm selling a lot of T-shirts, but at that moment, it had not stepped into a business yet. It was just a hobby. And this is how people start. We put our feet in the water, and we haven't applied ourselves to understand what business is. So when I didn't know how to scale and how to flip the money because I was still spending the money I was making in it, didn't know how to take it to a business, I ended up taking a break for a whole year. I almost quit. Now, I got to tell you what happened. A year goes by. I went to visit this church that somebody invited me to. I'm in church, trying to sing and praise God. It's a lady behind me. I mean, I think this lady thought she was at a rock concert. She was so loud in my ear. She was too loud. Same way. Now, listen to me clearly, everybody. The same way the man in prison got quiet when he told me God is going to show you, this lady started speaking. So she said, hey, she tapped me on my shoulder. She said, are you trying to start a business? I turned around like, I ain't never seen this lady in my life. She said, if you're trying to start a business, God told me he's going to do it if you keep him first. This is what this lady said to me, and I ain't seen her never before. She said, go up there for prayer. I went up for prayer. The pastor prayed on me. I mean, again, all the hope came back into me. So then after that, I'm ready. I got my word from heaven. I'm ready. A business person came to me. He said, Reggie, do you have business cards? Do you have a website? I was like, nah. He said, well, how do you expect to compete on the next level with these professional people if you don't even have that? I said, okay, because like I said, you have to accept the help when God sends it. People will come to you to try to give you wisdom, but sometimes we'll miss it. So instead of me, I'm like, yeah, he's right. I took an income tax. I had been working $1,000 income tax, not $20,000, not $10,000. I took $1,000 income tax when I got a website, when I got business cards, and I said, I'm going to change my shirts to design. See, what happens is, and I'm just saying, and this is just in the Christian world, you get people that make T-shirts and they put Jesus loves you or Jesus saves, and they think they're just going to sell everywhere just because they got them on it. No, people want designs. They want something that's dope that look good. And I knew that I was an artist, so I switched from just words on a T-shirt to I made a godly image, which was tattooed on my chest. I took my business name and put it on the front of the shirt in a dope block letter like a graphic design.
That's phenomenal. That is
Yeah,
phenomenal because I think one of the best things about this podcast is that what you're saying pretty much encompasses everything that's wrapped up into one. How you take your expertise and turn it into something that could be lucrative and profitable and fulfilling, because now you're doing something that you love. My son
right.
right now, who is also a graphic artist. He loves to do animation, like, Japanese animation. He does comics and stuff.
Okay.
Now, I
Okay.
can sit here all day and I can tell tell him to go out there and get a job, but he will sit up all night long to do a comic series just to put on the website because it fulfills him. And so, because it fulfills him, he can't see anything else. And it's pretty much just like when I was younger, when I was a singer, I couldn't see anything else and it fulfilled me because I was a singer, and you spoke earlier, like you said earlier that I wanted to kind of point out that your grandmother kind of spoke your future. And we all have people, your aunt, your stepmom, your aunt, someone in your family who has a higher power, I should say. Right. I mean, we all have people who do that in our family. And I can tell by my own testament that my grandmother said, Anissa, you really need to, I know you like to sing, you like to go out there and do stuff, but you should get in the government and get into computers. And I'm like you, I'm like, okay, I'm not thinking about any of that stuff. Why would you think that? You're not even in computers. This is back in the day when Wang, Atari days, Sega Saturn was just a concept on someone's paper, and just so happened to come into fruition. Pretty soon I was hired temporarily at a government agency, and next thing you know, I was learning computers. Who knew that I would do that? But I guess I say all that to say is that like you said, you don't know your gift until it's staring you right in the face. And so with this podcast, it's just your story in particular, and there's some other people too, that it just brings it all full circle that, you can change your life for what it is. You don't have to live in that darkness or that situation. You can literally make it whatever you want. And, by you taking the initiative to get your business cards and talk to people who are in business and get everything set up so that you could be legalized, that's phenomenal, So tell me, how successful have you been since then?
Now the thing with it is, I started getting orders from Africa and France for my T-shirts. I was really floored by that. City to city, people like the design, and I ended up getting a fashion magazine deal. I was at a what is it called? Office Depot. Me and my wife. I'm gonna go quickly through this, but it was just so astonishing because when you saw the magazine that the lady did, it was like a mix between a Vogue magazine and an Essence. And we're looking at my stuff as like urban wear, sweatshirts, hoodies, T-shirts, and had no idea that I could even get in it because they were wearing galas, they were wearing gowns, they were doing fashion. But the girl that was there was the designer. She was like, "No, this lady will love your stuff." We're like, "Yeah, right." We're laughing inside like, we ain't going to get in this magazine. Lo and behold, a week later, the lady calls me and says she wants to give me a 4-page spread. She went all over St. Louis, East St. Louis, for free. I was like, cool, oh my God. Then she says, "You know what, I also want to sign you to as one of my designers." She's a Christian fashion designer. She did work for the big stores in LA and everywhere. I mean, the big magazines. And God told her to start her own magazine. So anyway, as I'm doing that and working, we went to one of the places, and Macy's was her sponsor. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to be in Macy's. Finally was getting like Macy's. And in the midst of the people told her, well, if you can prove that people will buy this type of fashion, we'll give you a spot in Macy's. Not the big conglomerate, but the one down in St. Louis. And she was like, okay. And in the midst of that, she left somebody wrong in charge, and we lost one of the big investors. Now, this is the part of my life where I'm going to get to my book, Live Determined. Something, if you listen to my story, has always went wrong. Now, this time I didn't lose it. I just stayed focused because I already had been doing little bitty shows where, now this is how the twist came. I had been doing little shows like comedy shows, Christian shows, or plays and fashion shows, and they wouldn't let me get up and do 2 minutes of my testimony. And I noticed more people were glued in. They loved the fashion, but my story of how I overcame became bigger and bigger. Now, in the midst of that, I got an email out of nowhere from the St. Louis American paper. They want to do an article on me out of nowhere. I was like, who told you this? Somebody told us we need to check you out. So the lady interviews me, and I'm thinking when we get through, I'll flip through the paper, and you know how you flip through. You got the little small picture, and you'll miss it if you flip too fast. Man, somebody called me who went on the website and said, yo, Reggie, they were frantic for me. They got you on the front page, business section, biggest day. I said, the front page? Man, I went and got that paper. Me and my wife was sitting on the front page of the business.
Wow. So you were very excited. So you were very
Of course,
excited.
because
Yeah.
I never thought that I would get the front page.
Yes.
And it
Well,
said
your story is
Reginald Foreman.
incredible. I will.
Yeah,
If I was a newspaper, owner, I would probably put you on the front page
I
too.
never
You
thought
know,
that. I never
not
thought
and
that.
it's not because your story is unfortunate. It's how miraculously you were able to come out of it. And if we kind of look at it that way, we just have so many youth that's out there in trouble, and these parents, especially me, I'm a parent, so I'm gonna speak for myself, but as a parent I know that how I feel about my kids. So if there's anybody listening to this podcast that is listening to your story and they have a niece, a nephew, a son, a daughter, or whoever that is going through this type of thing, we're going to get into that in a minute, but I want you to kind of give that advice and talk about your book. So tell us
Oh
about your
yeah.
book, Live Determined, because I want to know about, is it all about your life as you explained here on the podcast, or are there other things that you have incorporated
Right.
in this book that you kind of want to share with everybody, on a high level, but not giving everything away?
Well, yeah, the book. The book. First of all, I didn't want to write the book. I ran for 2 years. I fought God because all I wanted to do was be a fashion designer. I didn't want to write a book until I was big. Because in my mind, if I'm in Paris and everywhere, I'll sell more books. But like I said, I had how the book came about. I had spoke at Aeneas Williams. He's a ex-football player, Hall of Famer, and all that. 200 plus men. When I got through speaking, the men kept asking, "Where's your book?" They wanted more. So the book came about after 2 years of finally being obedient. It's Live Determined. Don't let your struggles bully your dreams. That title came straight from God. Don't let your struggles bully your dreams, because when you get ready to start a business, you're ready, you're hyped, the car will break down, or a bill will pop up, or a child will get sick. And that's a struggle trying to bully your dreams to make you give up. And the book is 10 chapters. It has pieces of my life, but it has everything I've overcome and helping other people. It's a step book to empower other people. Everybody that's read the book, from young kids, mostly teenagers, and adults, are like, "Yo, I saw my life in this book. You helped me get through." Because what I put in the book is how to overcoming
Mm-hmm.
fear, overcoming
Mm-hmm.
lack, overcoming poverty, everything that could help somebody else. But it has my story, and it has steps to fulfill
Wow.
your own dreams.
Now, can I ask a question? So, just kind of turning the shift a little bit to our young black men out there. You know, is anything in your book is more targeted toward them, because we do have a lot of black men in jail or in trouble right now today? I mean, or is it just universal? It doesn't matter if you're black, white, woman, man, doesn't matter.
Basically, it is universal, but because I'm a black male that came from the projects and the streets, it's gonna hit them because I got overcoming prison is the first thing. Then I got overcoming pride, overcoming educational challenges, overcoming poverty, overcoming hate. So everything that you can think that a black male could go through, or a white or black woman, but of course black males, because it's coming from my life, a male perspective. So I would say it's gonna hit everybody, but definitely it'll hit them up front. One of my
Okay,
favorite chapters,
awesome.
chapter 8, overcoming
Mm-hmm.
the feelings of unworthiness, where you don't know
Wow.
that you deserve to be successful or you matter.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that is fantastic. I am so happy that, and really want to thank you for sharing all that. I'm still kind of like lost for words, as you can hear in my voice. I'm trying to think of questions, but you cover so much, and what do you really, what question can you really ask, out of that, other than how do you stay, what is your one key advice on staying focused? That's a real good question that I
Oh
could ask.
man,
So, you
right.
talked about how you kind of flipped off on a lot of stuff when you faced disappointment, but this time you did not go through that. So what was different this time, that kept you focused and
Well,
not
well,
like flip off and hating God and things
right,
like that?
right. Well, for one thing, I put it in my book, chapter 10. I had to find out who I was, and then I had to find out, for me, this is my faith, is not preaching religion. I had to find out what's outside of me. Because, like I said, I watched my father go to college, become this educational person, he was so smart. But when the real hard times of life hit him, he didn't have nothing to fall back on. So that's why I'm so serious about God. So once I found out that he was real and that he had a purpose for them. See, this is what my next book is about, my movie. It's my life story. I'm talking to people in Hollywood right now. There's purpose in your pain. When I can direct that this pain is going to turn into a purpose and I'm not just being stepped on or bullied, it opened my mind up. So what I do to stay focused every day is, one thing is that I keep my spiritual and mental tank full. And this is what it is. Like when you're getting ready to go on a journey, you're getting ready to get in your car and go on a long drive out of town or whatever, vacation. Of course, people tune up the car, but the main thing you do is you fill up your gas tank. So we're on a journey in life. So how I keep my mental and spiritual tank full when I'm getting weak, because you're going to get hit. I don't care if you're Bishop, T.D. Jakes, or Oprah. You go through weariness. They both said it. So how I do it, because I came so much abuse and suicidal thoughts, is as soon as I'm getting in a problem, I pray immediately. If you're a person that believes in God, don't wait 2-3 days to pray. Pray immediately. Look, I need your help, God. See, I was a straight out dude. Look, I'm about to bust somebody in their head. I need your help.
I need your help. That's
it always helps me.
right.
And then I watch spiritual movies on TV. I put it on my phone. Wherever I'm going, you can watch it with your smartphone.
Right.
Keep your mental tank full. I watch Oprah. I watch Tyler Perry. I watch Jim Carrey. You'll find out that these people that made it bleed the same blood as you, and they had to go through it. So I keep my mental self full. When I'm getting ready to give up, I go watch and say, yo, this guy was homeless, and this is what he did. So I stay full by keeping positive. I create a positive atmosphere. On my phone, I got positive affirmation. On my wall, I got positive affirmation. You have to keep that you can make it and positive things before your eyes and daily so that you can know you can do it.
Wow. And I'm pretty sure that you're also doing this too, in terms of just making sure you stay focused in your business. I would say if you had to give someone the biggest advice that you could ever give them, what would that advice be in terms either your personal or your business life?
Wow. I gave this when I was just on a panel in New York. And this is what it was about telling my younger self. But the main thing is don't panic. Don't rush. Impatience can hurt you a lot. Because I've made a lot of deals that were me trying to be successful too fast. If you learn to trust God and trust the peace inside you, you will make it. The biggest thing is to understand it is for you. It just has to happen at the right time. So don't panic and learn to be patient and trust God's timing.
Awesome. Well, Reginald, thank you so very much for sharing everything on this podcast. This has been really, really incredible. And I'm hoping that everybody who is listening to this podcast will take this message and share it and really, internalize and make sure that what all the positive stuff, not the negative stuff, but all the positive things that can come out of this interview, and talk to their children about it or talk to their neighbor about it and say, we have to support each other. And for those people that helped you along the way in the past, God bless them. Because, if we all need help from someone sometime, even myself, I'm not immune. I need help from other people. But just the fact that one person can change someone else's life through help. And that's why I'm doing this podcast, because one person who wants to share the information on here helps someone else, and then that person helps someone else. And with all the violence that's going on, we need all the help we can get. So tell everybody how they can find your rock wear, your shirts, your God made. I saw the photo. It looks very, very fly with all the graphic stuff. So tell everybody how they can find your products and your book.
Well, you can find it on reginaldforeman.com. My website has everything, but I'll say the social network also. If you want to follow me on Instagram, follow the journey, because like I said, right now we are on the doorsteps of Hollywood for my movie, There's Purpose in Your Pain. Reginald_Foreman. Reginald_Foreman is my Instagram. My Twitter is Godly Imagery, and my Facebook is Reginald Godly Image Foreman. But if you go on ReginaldForeman.com, find all that.
Find him. You can. He let you know you can find his shirt. Okay, so there's no excuse. So everybody, thank you for joining the podcast again. All of his contact information will be at the bottom of this podcast, and you can read his full bio as well. And if you want to reach out to him, please do. If you can't connect with him, please get with me. I will try to get you connected with him. And Reginald, thank you so much for being on this podcast and sharing your incredible story.
Thank you so much for having me, and I want to speak life to you. That thank you for being a deaf. Do what you do, because people probably don't know how to get it back. But please believe, if you reach one, that one will reach two, and you're doing a great job.
Awesome. Thank you.